And thank you for joining us all the way from the States. So, how are you doing?
Improving.
From
Well, I mean, when I see you, I guess, the world is having a life of itself, different from what we experience just right around us, which could be, devastating sometimes. So, well, it's definitely improving. Talking with you girls.
Yes, I think we could say the same here as well. Yeah. So we are really thrilled and truly honored to be able to speak with you about Confetti. And this film is actually a film that's really loved by our curation team here at CinemaWorld. So we have a lot of questions. Before we dive in, definitely allow me to quickly introduce CinemaWorld. So CinemaWorld is the first and only Pan-Asian international movie service. And we curate box office hits, award-winning films from around the world for our Asian audiences in Indonesia, Taiwan, Singapore, India, Philippines, and more. So this July, CinemaWorld is actually having our Asian Filmmaker Spotlight to showcase award-winning Asian filmmakers like yourself and your evocative storytelling. And at the same time, of course, CinemaWorld's brand extension called Cinema Short, we have this vision of fostering emerging Asian filmmakers by showcasing their short films on our global platform. And of course, we're driven to keep this ever-evolving conversation within the Asian filmmaking space alive. And definitely an in-depth interview with someone like yourself would be great insight for both our audience of film enthusiasts as well as budding filmmakers. So we are so happy to have you here today to talk about your 2021 film Confetti and its touching message for all our audiences. So Hoi, maybe you can start us off with the interview with some burning questions that we have for Anne.
Yeah, sure. Clearly Confetti is a very personal project for you, and yeah, we just wanted to know more about what the sort of conversations you'd like Confetti to bring about regarding dyslexia.
I guess the ultimate message is about it's okay to be not normal. So, I mean, who wants to be normal? That's the message eventually that the film tried to convey. The reason for this message is that this little girl and her mother tried everything they could to make this girl normal. I mean, normal meaning to have the same kind of reading capacity and the writing capacity like all other kids of her peers, but what they totally ignored was that she had some special talent that only she herself carries, and that is unique and that is rare, but not until you really treasure them, they could be taken as nothing, as like trash. There's a scene in the film that there are a lot of confetti flowing into the wind from a trash can. So I think then those confetti were blown away, disappeared into clouds or fogs. So it's like in our life we really do not know how to take care of our gifts. How to recognize who we are is okay, and it's okay to be who you are, and you don't have to be normal, meaning you don't have to conform to the general population. So I think, but that is the message. And however, this message was portrayed through a personal story. I didn't actually, in the beginning, while I was making this film and while I was going through the experience, thinking that would be the message eventually that I would get and I want to convey, not until almost like the last minute. It is the journey that you go through, and in the end, you come to a realization. I guess it's okay to be who you are. Who wants to be normal actually nowadays? So that's the message. Okay.
You mentioned that it wasn't really something you started out wanting to, or rather, you didn't really have a specific message you wanted to portray when you started working on the film initially. So
no, I actually, I just wanted to share my experience to the to the general population, because what I learned was that the statistics in many developing countries are not available. 20% is a fair number to start thinking about things. If you have 20% of the population that are dyslexic at different levels of intensity, and it's a huge issue that people really haven't really got a awareness about and an understanding about, and many lives were wasted and are wasted and are getting wasted if this is not going to this awareness is not going to spread around. So I just wanted to share this experience to tell people what actually dyslexia is about. I mean, it's not what people think. Instead of an apple, it's a pear. So I really want to convey that experience so that people will have some kind of insightful understanding about this. And after the film, many audiences from many countries came to me and crying, mothers and husbands and wives, and telling me that if I had seen this film before, I wouldn't have divorced, because we had a kid who's dyslexic and we didn't know. We blamed each other. Like an audience came to me and never cried in his life, and he's very successful, like a business person in his 50s, and he never cried in his life. And he came over, he cried like a baby, saying, "Well, this was me. I hid my shame for all these years, but I didn't know what I have." So I feel that was originally what I actually had hoped for.
So this unexpected response that you are getting from everyone after you've made the film, and after people have watched it and came to you about this, how has that pushed you to further this cause, to spread the word about dyslexia?
Right. I didn't anticipate the scale of it, and the film had a life of its own after its release. A senator in our state, New York State, and rewrote a law just to allow all the students in the New York State in the public schools to allow them to have a test provided, and if the kids are early test is the most powerful tool to really decide what level, and if about if the kids have the learning disability or learning specialty, or special way of learning. It's called special education. So in that sense, that if you are tested, then you will be provided with special support. So that actually would help with so many people. And then I went to UK, and I found that in UK they're much more advanced in special education, and there are many more schools than America, but still far behind what is necessary. But the awareness is there. We started a movement. It's called Awareness Movement, and a movement to to do 1,000 screenings around the world. So every time when you watch this film, then you would understand. It's not like something I can tell you in 5 minutes. You will register, but if you watch this film, you would really understand the issue, and you will help spread the words. So with this 1,000 Confetti screening campaign, we did I don't know how many schools in the U.S. So many high schools and colleges, and including like Harvard and Columbia and Yale and all those top schools, plus all the I guess like a Hunter College and like high schools. So I guess the film was really quite widespread by itself, and so many schools signed up. and then went to London, England, and they also have many schools signed up, and the film was screened at BAFTA, and then later, their House of Commons, House of Lords actually gave us a gala to just celebrate and to show support. And then the film went to Thailand. So now Singapore, I'm so happy you're doing this, and I hope through your festival and your effort, it will reach more people. And then it's really helping. For the first time, I didn't know, but I got into this humanitarian field that that makes you just feel so inspired, and also so elevated. It's different from being a filmmaker, taking a film to festivals. It's totally different. It's really about helping people now.
I'm really interested in how you managed to transform this film into a movement. So, of course, we're watching films, it's always usually about the experience, entertainment, and that's actually what CinemaWorld is about as well. We not only want to entertain, we also want to educate and bring awareness of such social causes to people as well. So for yourself as a filmmaker, this journey from becoming, I think in your words, from a filmmaker to almost like a
humanitarian.
Yeah.
Right, I know.
Like now that you have such a huge movement behind the work that you do, has that translated into like your future or other filmmaking endeavors?
Well, I'm a kind of filmmaker that I would only make films that I really feel very strong about. And when I say that, when the subject that I can feel very strong about, normally somehow derived from my own experience. And so from all this experience, I think I was exposed to so many people in so many countries. And I got a very strong feeling that each country and each culture is of their own. Although, we try to, say, okay, we bridge the West to the East, but the core of the core culture will never be really mixed up. China is China, Singapore is Singapore. One place and the other place, they share many similarities, but some intricate, preferences and their civilization and are just so unique to themselves. So with all that in my mind, I feel the most comprehensive story a filmmaker can tell is to try to tell as many different stories of different people possible, yet all within one story. So so I'm in the process of experiencing many lives, and I'm listening to everyone, and so I'm still putting together this huge pot of everything, and hope something nice will come out. Something like can be more self-explanatory than that you're trying to force something. I think that's very important.
I believe this film is set in the early 2000s or 2010s. So now that Mei has grown up and Lan has learned to embrace her own individuality as well, where do you think they would be in 2024? Like, what would they be doing? What career would Mei be pursuing? Where would Lan be?
You mean how the film will continue?
Yes, essentially.
Or how do you imagine them to be like in the future?
If to make a story, I do not know. But in reality, my daughter has grown to be a full-scale young lady, and she's 18 now, and she graduated from high school, and she just got accepted by Parsons. She's going to major in fashion design, which I think it fits her talent. And also she's an influencer, just like what the film portrayed. She has this super talent with computer and graphic and all those graphic stuff. And so she's also an influencer at her age, just by putting up some clothing and do a video, and then she got a huge following, and so that's that. I think she will have a life of her own, and she will have many struggles. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm hands off. I'm having my life, and but for the film, I guess if I make another film, it will be about, again, my daughter's struggle, because that's the struggle I witness every day. And as a mother, I'm also torn when I see she is worried, and I will be very happy when I see she's elevated. So it's like a very it's a lifetime kind of a torture almost, in a way, being a mother. You always care too much, and while they're growing up and they're walking away, so that's that. So you just have to come to accept it.
So it's been many years of hiatus before you started on this project again and went back to filmmaking, moving into motherhood, because that was what you experienced before throughout as you weren't working, and then you finally got back to filmmaking. Do you think the directorial style has changed over the years?
Hopefully we all grow, and our taste changes, our judgment changes, and many things, our preference change, and we learn, right? So I guess in my filmmaking this time, I just, from the very beginning, I want the film to appear to be very simple. All the approaches are very simple, and try not to use elaborate camera movement. I feel like you try to tell a story with as little paint as possible. You try to paint a picture with as little paint as you can, and to still deliver a rich story. So I feel that's the challenge to every artist. It's not difficult to use many, luxurious decorations and huge, scale of actors, and with many, exaggerated kind of setups to really tell a story. I think that's it's like if you can make a nice dish with just water and some fresh vegetable and a little bit, and tastes wonderful. I think that's probably more challenging than trying to make some sea cucumber or something.
It's like telling a story with restraint.
Yeah, I feel like a simple, to keep it simple and stupid. I think that's like the KISS theory. I think I strongly believe in that. Less is more. So I try that, I think. Yeah.
I think what you mentioned about telling a story with restraint, I think that's something that a lot of filmmakers will struggle with, because it's their art, it's their baby. They definitely want to put in their heart and soul into things. So I'm curious about your own filmmaking career as well. What informed such a directorial style? Because you left China at 24, studied business, and then went to film school. Like, that's quite the career shift in terms of, you had a successful business career. So we're just curious also, what drew you to filmmaking, and then how that translated into telling a story with restraint as a directorial style.
Well, I never anticipated that I would become a filmmaker until I become a filmmaker. Okay, I think throughout my life, I grew up in a place, in an environment that I was not exposed to anything about filmmaking. I grew up watching very few films available in China at that time, but I was fascinated by them. And of course, coming to America, and then to go through the stage of survival, going through schools and going through all sorts of jobs, and eventually to become a professional business person after the business school and doing well. All that was a huge struggle, and and many people would think that's like already just that's plenty, and that could be just that's it, and but I realized somehow that I didn't go through all this ups and downs, cultural revolution, family separation, and coming to the States and all being alone, like with $5 in my pocket and all that stuff, and doing all sorts of tough jobs like serving the tables and doing house cleaning, 40 hours of full-time schooling and full-time working to support myself and pay the tuition. That was in the early 80s. I was among the very few first students coming out of China at that point in 1979. So I didn't go through all these ups and downs to just become a business person. I'm nothing wrong about being a business person, but I don't feel like I'm just a money machine. I'm a money tree, and then to produce profit, and so there has to be something else. Like later on, I run into a Chinese film director, and then somehow we spoke, and then I think that opened the door for me. I went back to the film school and I became a filmmaker. And after that, it's like every step was very, very, very challenging and extremely difficult, and put all the ups and downs I had before filmmaking together. And this is still the toughest. But I made a couple of films, and then I had my daughter. I feel that now the life is not just about making a film. The life is about more than making films.
Ever evolving.
Yeah, I think the life about being a mother, yes. For 10 years, yes. I didn't want to miss a second of that. It's just so full and it's so rewarding that I think, filmmaking can wait. And also, I feel like when you make a film, it's at a time that you have things to say, and it's worth saying. It's something it's worth saying, and you should take time to think about that. And I see many fantastic filmmakers. They're really prolific. They make film every year. They make a new film every year, and the story of this and that and that. And I watch them, and many are fantastic filmmakers. And I'm like I truly admire them for being so fast with their crafts. But you look at the story, and I just do not see why they make this kind of stories, because what do they tell you? Do you really learn anything? Do you really feel anything? Do you gain anything? So for all that effort and also resource, because it's a lot of capital, millions of dollars, and many people's filmmakers are life in it. So what does it offer? I do not know. So I'm humble. Okay, I don't want to bring up anything that I don't feel I can offer something at least.
You, like you said yourself, you were one of the first few individuals who's able to seamlessly navigate seemingly both the Hollywood and the Chinese scene really well. For our budding filmmakers out there, our question would be, how would you advise them to make a film, or for their work to travel beyond wherever they are situated at, so they can work seamlessly between both cultures?
Well, I can only say one thing, don't try to be something you're not, because that will show, and you won't be able to do it anyway. So basically make films that you are. If you are your environment, and if you understand your people, do that. But if you happen to be having the opportunity to live a few years overseas or in another culture, and having that culture in you, not just like 3 weeks of touristy kind of like understanding. I'm talking about in-depth kind of understanding, at least 5 years or 10 years. You understand the culture, and so you can reflect that culture's insight. Like people say, I believe, if you want to paint a flower, if you want to paint a flower, you should look at a flower for 3 years until you become that flower. Then you draw that flower. Okay, but not just, oh, okay, I have a flower I have in my mind. Okay, I know what flowers are, so I'm just doing it. And you put all that flowers together, that's synthetic. And then you have a very synthetic film that doesn't reflect the reality. The real stories always touch people. And, if it's a real emotion, real story, if it's authentic and coming from a authentic place, it will always touch people. I mean, so if you want to reach a broader audience, and you need to be able to speak their language, understand them, and that comes from the time you invest and spend with them and in there. I made a very small film in NYU. I went back to school, and that film was half shot in China and half shot in New York. I did the first half in China. It was so well done. Everyone said, "Oh, it was great." And so I got carried away. I thought, okay, I'm going to add another 30 minutes of film that continues the story in China and to happen in New York. And so I will make this a feature film. Instead of 50 minutes of a short film, I'm now making it like 80 minutes of a feature film. So my first film will be a feature film. So, it's not coming from an authentic place in a sense. So I just wanted to make it big and make it, to achieve instead of to experience. And so once the American American part of the film was done, and I cut them together and showed to everyone, and everyone said, "Nah, not good." But when I took out the American part, it looked very good. Meaning, that was, let me see which year, that was 1990. I already lived in America for 10 years. And with the American part of the film, I thought, okay, I understand English, I understand language, I understand people. It would be totally, it should be totally real. It should appear to be real at least, right? But that is the time, you make a mistake in film school, so that you're not going to get laughed at. You realize, no, my understanding about American culture is still so limited. And my experience working with American actors are none. So their performance seemed stiff and not real. So when you cut them together, they all they're like reciting lines and look very unappealing, to say the least. So I cut it off. So I left it off. So it's still short, because when I shoot China, everything seemed so authentic. Like it was at a village and some farmers or some kids and some some high school students. It was beautiful, and it was real, and it was authentic. And the American part was not. So I think it's important to really understand the culture around you.
So I think we're coming to the end of the interview, and we have had so much fun talking to you because
Oh, really?
It's really insightful.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
all right.
maybe before you end, could you say a few words for our viewers in English and Mandarin to let them know that Confetti is on CinemaWorld this July, and get them to tune in?
The audience of CinemaWorld, I understand that my film Confetti is going to you in this July, and I'm so looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the film. And I hope the film will bring you some kind of fresh air that probably you haven't really, at least you probably haven't expected. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. 听说这个电影五彩缤纷要在7月份的时候，通过 Cinema World，在台湾放映。我非常高兴，也感到很难得，因为我上一次电影在台湾放映的时候是2000年，当时对台湾的印象是异常 亲切和感受至深的。那么现在能有这部影片来和大家在此见面，真是一件让人非常非常愉快的事情。所以现在又要跟大家见面了，大家来看看电影，然后也许我们又可以神交一次。祝大家观影愉快，支持 CinemaWorld 的工作。